always so nice to get together. Thanks for coming along. I thought today we would look at Zhok for a change, seeing as we've looked at Frelux and Bulgar. And I know that everybody here is at a completely different stage from each other. Looking at you, I know you all in different ways, some of you more recently than others. You know, everybody from the busy professional musician who still has time to listen to hours of nerdy Klezmer old recordings. I'm not looking at you there, Valeria, but maybe I am a little bit. To people who are just joining us for sort of maybe their third or fourth session of Klezmer. And everybody in between. So it's really great. And I thought we'd start, we'll do a sort of mixture of listening and playing and trying things out. I hope that's okay. And if you know everything already, you can just criticize my teaching technique, okay? There's always something to learn. So shall we just introduce ourselves, actually? I mean, we've got a little while and there's not so many of us. Do you just want to say so we all know each other? Because it's all building the community. I'm Ilana, I'm your host for today, and I'm going to be talking about the Zhok.
Hi, I'm Judith. I'm always anxious to learn, but I am Ilana's mum.
Me, I'm Alison, and I'm very new to Klezmer. I did a wonderful 3-day course with Ilana just recently, and I've always liked the music, and I thought, well, lockdown is a very good time to learn a bit more. So thank you for having me.
Okay, Petra.
Hi. I first met you, not you, but your book, The Klezmer Fiddle, some years ago. Then I found out about the very nice A Nick in a Day project, and today I'm here. Hi.
Hello, I'm Valeria. I'm in Stockholm, but I'm actually Italian. I play the clarinet, and yeah, and I teach Klezmer. But there is always something to learn, like you said, so it's always a pleasure to attend the events of others. Thank you for doing it, Ilana.
Robin, that leaves you.
I'm Robin, and I used to have lessons with Ilana when I was living in London and studying at SOAS. But yeah, I just thought I'd dip back in and try and learn some new tunes.
Okay, thanks. And I think everybody's somewhere different in the world, if not in the country. So that's also fun. Okay, so let's start with the basics. When we say, how many people have heard the term Zhok in connection with Klezmer music? Okay, everybody, good. Does anybody want to either put in the chat or unmute what they mean when they think of Zhok? It's good to know where we're starting from.
Well, it's a dance in the 3/8, with a bit limping feeling.
Okay, good. Anybody else got anything to add? Slow hora, yeah. A Gassennigen, yeah. Good. Okay, so we've got a dance tune in 3/8, a slow hora, and a Gassennigen. So I think those are all very good contributions and definitions, if you like. Shall we listen a little to a couple of Zhoks, and then we can pick out together perhaps the all the common things that we can hear to make a definition together, because I have my own thoughts which do indeed include all those things, but let's go. Hi Penelope.
Hi, it's
Penny. Nice to see you.
Oh, it's nice. Sorry, I've not done this. I didn't realise I could. It's fantastic.
That's fine. I'm going to put you on mute. We're just getting going. Actually, we're just talking about what is a Zhok. So ears at the ready. We're going to listen to a couple of things.
Okay.
Here we go. So I've lined up a few tunes, and I'm gonna choose two actually to start with from the opposite ends of the spectrum, as I would like to think of it, and we can discuss why that is. This is the Boybrücke Kapelle doing the Boybrücke Chazana. So the Boybrücke Kapelle was a group put together in New York, including lots of well-known klezmer musicians of the time in the 20s. And this is a melody that they played as part of a mock Jewish wedding.
Boybrücke Kapelle spielt dem ersten allistigen
Okay, what words could we use to describe that melody? Either in the chat or you can unmute and...
Stately.
Stately, okay. For anybody who's not speaking so much English, that means quite slow and poised.
I think it was very sweet.
Sweet, yeah. And slow, somebody else has said. Okay, anything about the rhythm?
I was wondering, like, because it seemed a little bit heavy for a dance. Like if I had to dance it, I was imagining like that I would feel like that actually it's not pushing but it's dragging back. So I was wondering, like, okay, would I dance this as like with the hora step, or maybe should I use more of a, because it's the heaviness, it sounded more like a valse actually, but it's not a valse. Like
why is it not a valse, Valeria?
Well, because like we have the stress on pam 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 pam, so it's not this 1 2 3 1 2 3. There is actually heaviness instead of yeah, the valse, it's always like a bum bum, no, like,
yeah, 1 2 3 1 2
yeah, exactly, like you feel light on a valse.
Okay, and what about the melody? The melody, was it smooth? Was it choppy? Was it how did it feel? Can we remember? Shall I play a little bit again for those who...
The rhythm was very slow, but the melody even laid back behind.
Yeah.
Very long arches, and it laid back.
Yeah, it's laid back and smooth, no? Okay, all right, well, and would we call this a Zhok? Anybody who's had experience with the music, would you call this a Zhok?
With the Zhok, I'd expect something that you might dance.
Okay, okay.
To be more for listening, probably.
Okay, good. All right, so let's listen to another one. This is, I think, quite different. Have a listen to this. How about that? More ornamentation we've got.
Yeah, it's happening a lot compared to the other melody here. It's so richer, like, and it's not richer than the other. No, it's wrong. It's wrong. This, but it's just happening much more in the melody.
It's happening. It's an event.
Yeah, the music actually moves along much more. You get the odd change of mood and the odd change of melody as well. So it's not as static as the other one.
Okay. Interesting, isn't it? Okay. And is this a Zhok? Well, it depends how we're defining it, doesn't it? Okay. Well, let's go on to the word Zhok means a dance or a game. It's a Hungarian word, right? We know that. But perhaps it would be more accurate to say, what do we mean by a Zhok in this context? So what I tend to think of when I think of a Zhok is something with this rhythm, dunk, 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 dunk. As you said at the beginning, the limping three. So anything, it's a sort of way of grouping a tunes and a style of playing, in my opinion. As Valeria said, however, it's when it comes to actually finding tunes that are called a Zhok, it's not so easy. Unlike Bulgar and Frelachs, they don't say, oh, this is so-and-so Zhok. We don't expect it to be laid out for us in the name. A bit like with Turkischer. We call something a Turkischer because the rhythms. Yeah, but you don't say Schloimker's Turkischer very often. It's a melody and we say, oh, well, that's a Turkischer because that's the rhythm underneath it. So that's how I define a Zhok in this context, in the Jewish repertoire. But I do think that there are clues in the name. And I think Gasnigen is one of them because a lot of these tunes might be in three. They might be a bit more waltzy, but I think that last one we heard was a Gasnigen. It's the orchestra of the Ukrainian SSR, and it's called Street Tune, Gasnigen. And we're going to come in a little while to look at a score of that tune, that melody from Beregovsky. But it's a street tune. You might think a street tune wouldn't be quite so dancey necessarily. It might be a bit more processional, a bit like the... that, which of course, this is a wedding melody, and they say the wedding capellas play a melody, and then they play this. But I would never play it as melodiously and smoothly. Why? Because it's a Zhok, and I don't think of a Zhok as just being melodious and smooth. But again, the clue being in the name, let me just return to that for a second. We call these often Romanian style tunes or Bessarabian style tunes, and often I was looking through to collect these ones together to listen to them, and names I found referred to Bukovina, Romanian, Bessarabian, Moldovska, there's Bukovina again with a different spelling, with a W instead of a V. So you can often tell by the naming that perhaps it is going to have that regional affiliation, and if it then seems to have this 3 or 1 and 3 thing going on with the... Okay, let's have another listen to something else. Here we have, let's have Abe Schwartz and his daughter Sylvia on the piano playing a very popular tune, which you'll probably also recognise.
Sheila Strain.
So in that version it's called National Hora, but it's also known as the Gassennigen, the street tune. Okay, so I think we're sensing a bit of a theme here. Let's have another listen to this. She said, trying to find the beginning. Oh no, not that one. This one. Wow, same tune, almost twice as fast. And it's I.J. Hochman Orchestra here, and it's called Galiciana Volechel, however you want to pronounce it. And Volechel often refers to tunes from Wallachia, which is sort of around the Bessarabia region. So again, the Romanian, Bessarabian, Moldovan connection. A slight anomaly I'd just like to bring in here is this tune. And again, I think most of you will know it. Etc. Anybody know that tune by a particular name?
Romanian hora.
Romanian hora. Anybody else? Moldovan hora. Yeah, it's in Henry's book. It's in the complete Klezmer. What? Any guesses who was playing there? Which band? It was Belf. It sounds fairly Belfy. And guess what he calls it? Bolgarski Zhok. So we've gone kind of full circle here. Something that is called a Moldovan hora, and that we all know is that he calls a Bulgarian Zhok. So there we are. There's no telling really. But what I think all these tunes have in common is that they do have this rhythm underneath, and that there are certain features, I feel, and ways of playing them that we will now discuss that I think bind them together as a loosely connected concept, let's say. I will just play you one other melody. Have a listen. Is it in 3? No. No, it's definitely not in 3, but it's called an alto Zhok. It was collected, it's part of the Engel collection from 1913. So we wouldn't think of that as a Zhok. So my point is that we do have a concept of what a Zhok is, and we do categorize it as this limping 3. And there are all sorts of tunes we can put into that category with different names. But when it comes to approaching how we learn them, we think of them in a certain way. There is also the dance element, because it's much easier to dance to something that's a little bit quicker and that is forward moving. Anybody who was at Merlin's class yesterday, we discussed that. And it definitely has that front foot feeling when it's in the jump, 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 and the melody is going in that way as well. So I wanted to now look a bit more closely at the extreme example that is the Ukrainian SSR Gassennigen. And I'm going to share my screen with you because I have well, I don't know if it's the original that it comes from, but it's certainly a version that I think they probably based their interpretation on, and I'll tell you why I think that. Let me just share my screen here. Oh, it's a completely different place from hang on. No, there. Okay. So let me see if I can get it to share the whole thing. So it's called a Zhok, which is very helpful for our purposes in this version. So as you may know, Beregovsky was a Soviet Jewish ethnomusicologist. He collected a lot of tunes himself, and he also assembled and transcribed tunes collected by other people round and about Ukraine, basically what's modern Ukrainian. And this is just number 241 of his 5 books of thousands of tunes. And he says it's notated by B. Zachnowski, violinist. And this guy was apparently an amateur violinist, but a load of his tunes were really good. And he was obviously held in high regard because Beregovsky says in his collections he only used the best tunes. So despite this guy being described as an amateur, as you know, Klezmorim also had other jobs, so they're often barbers, but musicians, because they couldn't make a living just as a musician, just like in the current times. But I suppose maybe he could have been a barber first and foremost, and then a violinist only half his spare time, and he wasn't paid. Maybe that was the difference between somebody who was a barber but a violinist but couldn't make a living at it. I don't know where the distinction lies, and I'm not sure that Beregovsky ever talked about a distinction. Maybe he didn't belong to the guild. I don't know. But anyway, So he donated a lot of, there's a manuscript that Beregovsky has used a lot in here. And we know that Beregovsky was associated with this ensemble, the Ukrainian musicians of the SSR. Let me show you. The Ukrainian SSR State Ensemble of Jewish Folk Music, depending on which translation you're using. So, and here's the melody. This is the same melody, but as you'll see when we listen to it at the same time, we can all have a little play. And are you happy to transpose, Valeria? I'm sorry, I don't have it in B flat, or we can all transpose, the rest of us, but we could all have a little play of it, and then we can go back to the recording and have a listen. So I'm going to play in the way, it's very difficult not to be influenced, of course, as soon as you've heard a recording. And there are very significant differences, as you'll hear, but I'm going to give it's G Freygish. You'll note that Beregovsky does use the key signatures of the mode. He doesn't say, I'm going to write it in G minor and then naturalize or sharpen anything or whatever. He definitely, actually it wouldn't be G minor, it would be C minor. So we're going to go. Now I'm going to stop for a minute and we can work out what's going on in this bar. 1, 2, 3, 1. And again, that section. Okay, so that's just me basically sight reading the piece. So let's just have a listen to the other version first before we talk about our own personal approaches to interpreting a Zhok, which I think will be interesting to talk about. Okay, you don't want to be able to see this, but I'm going to, here we go. Okay, so they go through and they change the repeats on the next version. So interesting, huh? I mean, obviously it's not exactly the same because there's an extra section on the end, another major section, and the repeats are different. But what they do, can you see my pointy thingy here? When we get, so in the first few bars, we've got an upbeat. So they're really taking on this. It's really reflected in the rhythm that they're playing. Have another quick listen. Let's just. It's. And then we have. Suddenly goes a little bit smoother, and then you see that in the second section is suddenly this smoothness creeps in, so it's real contrast between them. And for me, this is really the essence of the Zhok, the contrast. And the fact that you just have this all the time going on, whether it's worked out, that rhythm, or whether it's just. And we'll see in a minute. I'm going to look at some other things, some other tunes. But really, it's always the interplay between this lightness and the shade, the smoothness and the spikiness, and it's a very playful thing. So sometimes you hear people will play, particularly that Gassennigun, very, very slowly. You know, with a sort of soupy vibrato and the slidiness, because they're like, oh, this is a nice slow tune. But for me, that first tune that we listened to is an exception to the rule, really. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second so I can find the Boybrücke Capella. And that's obviously a tune they're playing when they've got a Badchen there, because the beginning comes just as the Badchen has finished speaking. But even there, it might be that people are breathing in different places, because there's it, and so it's sort of papering over the slight, the breathing that's going on. I also think that there's something about the joins, these glissandi almost, when we were, I don't know if anybody was at Michael Winograd's session the other day, but he played this tune that Brownvine recorded, the Taister in Bukovina. Let me play you a little bit of that, and you can hear Bukovina. Here we go. Again, always dancing between for example. He might not have done that, but he might have. He might have done it the second time, if not the first time. So yeah, that the contrast, the dancing, and also these glissandi, he's using them as well. Let's see if they're cropping up anywhere else. I mean, as we know, there are no rules, but we can make generalities. And I was interested when I was listening today to hear this coming all sorts of places, and I'd never really thought of it as a feature. And maybe it's just because they get bored with it being a bit slow. I don't know, but maybe there's more to it than that. So I want to take two versions of the same melody, again, like with the Gassennigen. This is one that you may recognise as well. I mean, it's interesting, there aren't that many horas once you get down to looking for them necessarily. I may be looking in the wrong places, but compared to the numbers of Freilers and Bulgars, they're on the small side. And I did start trying to find out whether they were really very popular in Eastern Europe. And apparently the answer is not necessarily. They more sort of that rhythm worked its way into the Gassennigen and that sort of thing. But it became popular, according to Zev Feldman, in the 20s in New York. And we've got, let me just show you a couple of, so this is the Kamen folio. Kamen was a publisher, and they published for decades very, very popular music. It just kept being reprinted, and it was, I think, maybe it was used for bands, but I think it was probably also used at home for people, and they just had copies. I'm just trying to find out how to share the screen again, sorry. Here it comes. No, that's not it. There it is, Bessarabian hora, again with the Bessarabia. And here is, you can see this is the piano version of folio 1, and there were 1 and 9 seem to be all there are, and they come in all the different versions for different instruments. And you can see this has got the bass is so it's got the Zhok feeling, even if we don't really think of it as being, we think of it more as the first beat being a little shorter, although in some of these versions that we've been listening to, there is a slightly longer first beat there. But we've got on notes. It's got sort of, and it doesn't really have what I'm usually looking for in a Zhok is the but that's not how it's written, and it's obviously that bass line. And this brings me around to my next point, which is that we might see a melody that looks like this, Romanian hora. So this is a classic of my teaching, which I cannot get to open, sadly. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why it doesn't do that. Okay, but basically, if you look at this version of Romanian hora, it looks like this. Dotted quaver, 3 semiquavers, or whatever. Well, basically, if I play it like that, it gets pretty boring, and most things aren't actually. It's a shorthand. I think of it as a shorthand when something's written like that, and I will try and get it up for you in a second. So I'm going to stop the share. Let me just open that, and it's very frustrating, this whole. Has anybody else got any thoughts at this point? I've been holding forth for quite a while now. Anybody got anything they want to share?
Well, I have a question. Like, do you look at the melody to say like this is a hora, this is a Zhok, and this is a Gassennigun? So you look at the melody, how it is structured. But then sometimes I wonder, like, can I play the same melody as a Zhok? And like, if I change the way I play it, because like maybe how I work, sometimes I I transcribe a melody, and then I take out the skeleton of the melody, and then there it can change like very much. So depending, for instance, on how many ornamentation or variation I do, then I guess, but I don't know also if it is correct, because it depends also with whom you talk, because some people tells you like, no, you cannot. So what do you think?
I think it depends very much on the melody. I mean, I look for clues in the name, like you said, Gassennigun, Bessarabian, Woloch, whatever. So I look for a clue there first. I think, you know, when we talk about the waltz, we've got 3 very definite beats. 1, 2, 3. A tune that I'm not feeling it in that waltzy way. You know, some tunes I think will work. You can probably, and some of them that it's a lot more ambiguous. I mean, I did manage to find that tune. So let me just put it up and we can do, I think it's a very good example of what you're saying there about taking a melody and taking it back to its structure. So that's exactly what I do with this tune. We've got, again, we've got the bass indicating already, so that's a bit of a cheat. So. Yeah, so, I mean, for me, the immediate indication, of course, is this. And I don't play. Because we know different, and we know this tune very well. But and we can do what you said there, we can. whatever it is. So I would do the same as you there. I would take it back and say, what can I then put back in? And I suppose I could play that in a much more waltz-like way than I could play, because also it doesn't have the lift on the third beat. You've almost got to have a hold up on the third beat, haven't you, rather than this rushing forward that we have, or coming early. So for me, some tunes lend themselves more to that than others. Yeah. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I look for clues. It's the same as, you know, is it a frelifs or is it a bulgar? I look for clues in the melody. Are there lots of triplets? Is there some syncopation indicated? I don't necessarily believe the name has to dictate the way I play it. So I guess I'm sitting on the fence, maybe. So if we take a melody, do you want to demonstrate a different tune that works both ways, perhaps? Valerian? No. Okay. Just want to check. Anybody else got any?
Mordechai hora.
Sorry?
Mordechai hora is fine for both, for waltz or for
How
hora.
does that go?
Huh?
How does that go? Can you play it for us?
I hope I get the beginning right. It always, I have to unmute without pressing the. Mordechai is. It's on G. You can do it both ways, a waltz or a hora. Oh.
Good. There's one that crosses over then. I don't know that melody. Where is it from? Oh, you're muted now.
When you meet people that don't know the hora and you want to play together.
Yes.
And
where is
like,
the melody from? It's
well,
hora?
Then I take a hora that you can play as a waltz, and well, they don't know a hora, so they play a nice waltz, and you can make music together and enjoy.
Yes, but do they learn anything?
No, it's just to have a good time.
Oh, she's a klezmer, the fun kind. Right. Okay, and can you write it up here? And who wrote it? Is it a new tune? I don't know who Mordechai is, or who is his hora. Maybe it's
I try to find it.
It could be from what's his name? Oh, gosh, it'll come back to me. There we have one. Don't worry about it, Petra. There we have one that crosses over. That's great. So I was going to look at this other one that we have two recordings. We have a Belf recording and we have an early Taras recording. And Belf is calling this tune I've lost it. Okay. Volnyetskaya. It's not on my, that's why. Okay, so I'm going to play you a little bit of both recordings. So that's Fornichka, and here is Taras playing Mein Teure Odessa. So he's actually got a different second section to the different B section to the Belf version. But this is, I think this one is a great one for a few things. Another of those signals that I tend to look for to know whether it's what we might call a Zhok is there's, which is the end of the section quite often, and it sort of gives us that signal ah. But what we find in Beregovsky quite a lot in some of the Gassenigunim and things like that is he tends to go, he has this little three at the end of sections. That's his way of the informant's way of describing how they end. So we don't see this typical that we know. So let's just try one of those octave So we've got the rhythm. There's the junk, dunk, 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 dunk. Let's do it first as a down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Yeah, so we're compressing it so we have a gap before the downbeat as well. We've got so it's very, very small. Yeah, okay, so that's if it's on one note. If we could do, if we were to be fiddles doing it on the D and the A, if we listen to Miss Sylvia Schwartz, let's just listen to her bringing in her daddy.
Oh, verbuß mich, mit dem schönsten Vergnügen, was Spiel auf Streuen.
Listen once more.
Vergnügen, was Spiel auf Streuen.
It's almost like a cymbalon, isn't it? She's not doing it, it's not as extreme as this. Let's give that a go. Let's listen once more. It's really hard to reproduce that particular. But it's definitely got that break. Very Moldovan sort of feel, that like when it crosses between two and three. Nice. Okay, so if we then do that as the end of the section, Now, one of the things, let's just practice a little ornamentation. One of those things that Brownvine did in his. Because it's so cool, he goes. He does like a crest on the. I think it's probably easier on the clarinet than on the fiddle, but I'm not sure. It's like crest 606 because you almost have to do it in the same bow, which we never do, a crest in the same bow as something else. We could do it like that. Or we could literally stop the bow and do it. That's... It's quite a good one to practice because if you can play that, you can play easily. Etc. So that's quite a good one. Anyway, I still haven't got around to playing these two versions. Yes, I have. I just played the two versions. So what we heard was that the first version, the Volnyetskaya, very clipped. Here we go again. This is the bell. They probably are all slightly different, but let's try that. So we're going from D to B flat with an A in between. G, A. So I think this one is a very good example of how we can build a melody. It's very simple. We've just got a... And we've already got lots of examples of how we can do it to lots of musicians from different eras almost, playing it in their own way, although it is early Taras, so it's probably sort of early 20s, and the Belf recordings from probably 1912. The other really important thing, I think, for me, when you're playing a Zhok melody, I see what you said about Alan Byrne describing the hora Zhok feeling as long, short, long, short, long. And I think that's right. Of course, Alan's always right. So, of course, it's right. And I think 5/8 is one of those things that you can... we just use that as a way to describe it as being forward on the beat on the 3, because it's not 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. And it's a feel thing. I don't teach it by counting ever because it just doesn't work. It gets too too finicky. But and I sort of agree that about I think of it as more heavily accented though than long, because sometimes if it's long, it's too long. And I think it depends what instrument you're playing as well. If you're playing a bass, you can get away with playing a longer note because the resonance sort of, you actually don't play a longer note, but it sounds longer because you put a lot of front on it, and then the resonance carries you in the bass. So it'll sound longer, but if we played, it sounds too long. So we have to be careful. And the accordion, of course, is, reed instrument, and you hit it with your finger, and you have a totally different effect again. So I think it's very dependent on which instrument you're playing. How I describe it, let's say, it's, again, it's what produces the effect in the dancers. On Saturday, I'm hoping that we will do something with Christina Crowder. She's doing something really interesting to do with dance and how to make people dance with the music. She's got a whole new thing going, and I'm hoping that she might trial it out on us on Saturday. Anyway, so this so let's do it with a short long to start with. Again. And let's try it with a little. And again. And now let's try it with a. Go. What if we tried to combine? So we had. Let's try that. One and one. So we've got, there's just so many options, it blows my mind. I just love this one. Because we can do. So let's just go round a few times and try short, 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 short. And then try long, 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 long. And then try short, long, short, long, short, long. Let's see, let's just go around a few times. And if you get bored, stop and have a listen and see what's going on at the other end. Okay, one, yeah. I could just do it all day. Valeria's still at it. Does anybody want to play it now with the mute off? No? Okay, or any comments or thoughts, questions? Okay, I'm gonna now play you a little bit of, I keep saying I must stop that. A little bit of the King, Naftula Brandwein, King of the Klezmer clarinet. And let's just have a listen. This is his Fearende Mechtone Meheim, so it's basically a Gassennigan, a street tune. It's taking the in-laws home. Just have a quick listen to the beginning. Whoops. Okay, now let's just think about this long short thing again, and just listen to the way that he's playing the melody there, because there's so many little variations. It's very interesting to me how he turns it around completely at one point. Let's have another little listen. So there he's ya ba 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 ya ba ya ba 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 ya da ya dum. So it's a real mixture of all these different things that you can do, and still the long short going on, or slightly longer and shorter going on underneath, completely basic. But if we listen to something where it goes to the extreme in the other direction, again, which is this Bolgarski Zhok, the I just love that because it's like reverse Zhok, isn't it? It's everything we've been told not to do. It's the rather than dunk, 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 I'm just kind of go against it all. So I think the what I'd ask you to take away possibly is the thought of going back to that very simple Romanian hora, which so many of you know already. Or quite often we don't play that rhythm. You know, we do play it more as we see it, rather than, but sometimes we do play it because we want the one to come. So taking the gives us a really good one. Something Alicia Spiegel's taught me many a long year ago. Even that's acceptable, even though it takes it into the realm of the waltz, doesn't it? the pushing, the pulling, but also that tripletizing across the beat. All those things you can just do with such a simple tune, and the more simple the tune, the easier it is to get away with all these things and really have a lot of fun. So I'd urge you to really just go back to something the simplest one you know, and have another go at it and come up with something a bit new and exciting. I haven't really taught you a new tune, which is possibly not what I promised, Robin, sorry. But you can make it your own new tune by doing all these very simple things to it. Anybody want to say something?